Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CoculesNation. My name is Secret Agent X No Cocules. I'm the founder and the director of the Cocules Industry Spy Network and the CoculesNation. For today, I'm going to be doing another virtual machine. This time, I'm going to be doing Pop! OS 2204. Now, this is of course an Ubuntu-based distribution, so I'm going to go ahead and just go through the install. I've done this install a little bit. It's actually a very easy installer. You don't have to do much. We're just going to do a clean install for the VirtIO. I did give this thing 6 threads of my 24-thread CPU, and I even went ahead and gave this 30 gigabytes. And I also went ahead and gave this sucker a decent amount of RAM. I did 8 gigabytes of RAM. I'm going to go ahead and do a strong and complicated password. They don't even want me to set a password, which is insane. I'm going to go ahead and encrypt it. Right, it's actually very, very easy to do. Once the drive is partitioned and all that, we're going to have to go ahead and do an update. I was having some problems with Pop a little bit earlier. I was having a couple of problems with it while doing a previous recording session because I was actually showing off my BSPWM. I am still using Mint, by the way, for those that don't know. I'm using BSPWM, and things are getting a little hectic right now. But as long as I stay inside of Pop, I think I should be okay for the time being. Now, granted, for most of what I do in terms of taking a look at an operating system, it can actually get a little hectic at times. Some of the software is actually old on Debian and or Ubuntu-based operating systems, this being Ubuntu-based. This time around, I'm also going to double this as a tutorial for those that want to do gaming on Pop. Now, granted, I'm the type of guy that loves to do gaming on Linux. I mean, I've been doing gaming on Linux ever since 2021. I started back in 2020, but I've been doing it on this channel specifically since 2021. Probably early 22 at best. That said, I'm also going to try to set this up, even though it's a virtual machine. I'm going to try to set it up. And I guess the best thing I can do is probably follow my Mint tutorial at best. We're going to go ahead and go back into the full screen view because it's pretty obvious. We're going to go ahead and enter our strong and complicated password for the crypt setup. It's actually encrypted, so we're going to see how that's going to go. There was some weird stuff. It is going to be using a customized GNOME. I believe they were actually going to be using the Cosmic desktop, which actually explains their tiling capabilities. Here we have a customized GNOME. I don't want workspaces. Applications should be fine. All of that's done. Yada, 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 yada. I do not care about that. Time zone, I'm going to set that to PDT. All of this is going to be fine. I can skip that. I do not need this. We're going to go ahead, start using Pop. I will immediately be going to the settings, and I will go ahead, go into, it's under display? It is under display. I'm going to go ahead and do 1920 by 1080. I'm going to go ahead, still going to be at 60 Hertz, but I believe that's going to be just fine. High DPI stuff. And there's like a mode. I actually do not have high DPI right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1920 by 1080 without high DPI. I'm going to go ahead and do just that. Okay, looks kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and actually pull up a terminal. I believe this is actually going to be Cosmic. This does definitely look like Cosmic as far as I'm aware. Let's go ahead and do sudo apt update. And then do a double ampersand with sudo apt upgrade. Because this is, of course, .deb based. I'm going to go ahead and enter my strong and complicated password. I'm going to let apt for Pop do its thing. I am going to go ahead and get a couple of things done around the house here. I will be right back with you once this thing is done updating. Alright, so we are pretty much done with all of this stuff here. Let's go ahead and do a quick reboot. We're going to reboot the machine, the virtual machine rather. And the reboot should actually be relatively quick. Here I just have some water with apple cider vinegar. I was using regular water in my black water bottle. I've got 2 of them that I use. And the reboot was actually relatively quick, which is pretty interesting if you ask me. Now, we're going to go back into POP, and there's actually a floating window. I can actually do tiling. Now, if I do some sort of tiling, what I could go ahead and do is probably, let's actually do a terminal, do another terminal. Oh, it doesn't truly tile. Interesting. But I think we get the idea. I'm actually going to turn tiling off in this one. And then I'm going to do the same command again. Make sure everything is fine and dandy. I mean, this is apt after all. And there's nothing to do. Sudo apt auto remove. And I like to do a purge. So we're going to go ahead and just purge all of those. So we should be fine and dandy there. Now, all of this should be fine. First things first, I'm going to go ahead and launch Firefox. But this is not going to be your regular Firefox. I'm actually going to be using the Michael Bezel method. And you're going to see what I'm doing here in just a second. Now, this is a variation of the Bezel method. I'm still going to be doing some of the same things. Like strict. These. Definitely that. All of these will be turned off also. That's fine. Custom settings for history. No, no, and that's fine. We're going to actually go ahead and do... use custom settings for history. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and do all of this stuff. This will also include me using something called uBlock Origin. For those that don't know, this is a Spectrum content blocker, which blocks ads. It blocks all kinds of things that are not necessary. So really all kinds of unnecessary things that I do not need. All of this is safe browsing nonsense. That we're going to go ahead and do max protection. I like using NextDNS. Another option is Quad 9. So if you want to use Quad 9, you can go ahead and do that. I believe this should be fine for now. Let's go ahead and go into Polgo. Polgo.io. This is the search engine I'm going to go ahead and use. And that's because of the fact that under search, we're going to use Polgo as our default search. And then I'm going to go ahead. Every single one of these can go bye-bye. Every single one of these can go bye-bye. So that's done. That's basically the Michael Bezel method. Bezel would recommend you use DuckDuckGo. I wouldn't. DuckDuckGo is actually a very bad search engine, and it piggybacks off of Bing. They kind of have Bing spying on us through DuckDuckGo. Anyway, the reason why I did it like this is because I'm going to go ahead and go to the Linksmith forums. And there's a specific tutorial I'm going to find. So let's go to the Mint forums index. Wait a minute, I need to get uBlock first, and then get all of that done. I am being silly here. I got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning at the time of recording. So I'm not in the best of mental shape right now. But I'm doing okay. We're going to go ahead and do uBlock Origin, and even run it on private windows. But at least I was giving you preview. At least I was giving you a preview of what I was going to be doing. Let's go ahead and disable these. Do I am an advanced user. And then every single one of these, I'm actually going to go ahead and do. There we go. Done and dusted. Now I can find the Mint forums. Again, I am not in the best of mental shape right now, but that's just me. We're going to go ahead into the Mint forums, and where I want to find, I'm going to find the tutorial section, and then we're actually going to be using one of my tutorials, which is going to be the Mint 21 Cinnamon tutorial for gaming. I know which one is mine. There it is. I found it. So this is the exact thing in which I am using for this tutorial. But there are also going to be a couple of things in which I will be using. Of course, I went ahead and did the update. I mean, it does have the NVIDIA drivers, but I don't think the version I have has these. I'm using it on a virtual machine, so there's that as well. We're going to go ahead and do Chris Titus's guide. So this is it right here. I'm going to go ahead and actually allow the JavaScript. It is a trap, yes, if you don't know what you're doing. Let's go ahead. There is a repository here, but I think it already comes with the NVIDIA drivers. I think we should be fine on that front. Moving along, we will go ahead and actually do the Liquorix kernel, but I'm not going to do the Liquorix kernel today because I'm not going to be using virtual machines for gaming. That's kind of silly. And when we get to wine here, I'm actually going to go ahead and go here. This is Ubuntu based after all for pop. Now, first things first, I need to add the i386 architecture, which is 32-bit shenanigans. We're going to go ahead, bring this here. Why would I do that? That's me being silly. I'm entering my actual password and I don't need that. I will go ahead and add these and then get the key ring, or really just get the key. There it is. Now we're going to go ahead and do sudo apt update. But before we do that, I actually need to grab the Ubuntu 2204 thing. This is starting to bother me. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. Reload it that way. Why is it not reloading? Strange. Anyway, 2204. We're going to go ahead. This is acting a bit strange indeed. That's fine. Now, sudo apt update. We're going to go ahead and update even with the sources for wine. This is the version I would recommend installing. So if you wanted to install wine, you can go ahead and do that. But I'm not going to be doing it today. They have this for KDE Neon, and there's like some glib dependency things and all that type of stuff. F-Audio apparently has some issues. There's actually an OBS build for it. For Debian 10. That's probably going to be okay. That shouldn't be such a big deal. Now, Vim is not installed by default, so I'm going to do sudo apt install Vim. I'm going to go ahead and install Vim. It's not going to be the latest and greatest version of Vim, but it's still going to be, nonetheless, the latest version of Vim that's been compiled. Now here in the tutorial, I actually used Nano for it, but I was using Nano at the time. Now, I'm using Vim and VI based text editors, even like NeoVim with NVChad. So we're going to go ahead and do sudo vim, or any text editor of choice, and then go to etc default, and then grub. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Qbang. Got it. Now, under this right here, we're going to go ahead and do RHGB, which is Red Hat graphical boot. Quiet is basically no splash screen or whatever. No splash, so I don't have the splash. And then if you are on NVIDIA, you need NVIDIA-DRM.modeset = 1. And then turn off CPU mitigations. Mitigations are good for server-side activities. So that is it there. AMD users are not affected by this, and you may have some other things, but just don't do the DRM mode set thing, and you should be good to go. We're going to go ahead and quit that. Next, we need to update the grub, so sudo update grub. I'm actually going to go ahead back into that and delete this thing here. Update the grub again. There we go. Done. Now, we should have some good things going on here. So we should be fine and dandy. Now, we're going to go back into that. We're going to go into async. So we're going to do ulimit -H lowercase n. And it does return over 500K. That means async is enabled by default. So that is fantastic. Next, for game mode, this does use systemd, so that is fine and dandy. We are actually going to go ahead and do that. Sudo all of that, I just copied it. I'm going to go ahead and get into this type of stuff. Very, very simple. Now, we're going to go ahead and clone the latest version of game mode. Pretty simple, pretty sweet. Now, cd to game mode. Now, we can't omit to build the master branch. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and do a bootstrap.sh. I do not have CPU frec. I don't even have a governor device. Well, let's continue with that. I guess it defaults to no. So I guess we should be fine. And then install that to user. So I think we should be okay on that front there. We can literally uninstall it by just doing that. So I believe we should be okay. Next, for the custom Proton, if you decide to use Steam, you're going to have to use a project that I like to use. And that's going to be something called Proton Upqt. And it's this sucker right over here. It does come in the form of an app image. So go ahead, get the app image. You'll be able to install the latest versions of Proton just like that. Now, I'm also going to go ahead and actually do a couple of other things. This is just me building up a virtual machine like I would personally build up any Mint. So we're going to go ahead and actually go into the applications. I'll do a terminal once again, and then we're going to do a test file. Again, literally what I'm doing over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now, I should see this thing is not gone. No, it is not. Good. That means I do not have Druver virus. If the test file disappears, that is an infection. That's not great. Now, of course, we can check for unsigned kernel modules. These are them. And there are a couple of them that are unsigned. That should be fine. Now, we don't have secure boot on this one because I turn off secure boot anyway. Then we should be good on that front. So we should be all right on that front there. Now, there are also some other things that I actually can do in terms of hardening. So hardening the Linux kernel. We're going to go ahead and see if UFW is installed. It is installed. Now these are the recommended rules. Now we're going to grab failed ban. Failed ban is not installed. So we're going to go ahead and install that too. There's an example file in etc failed ban and failedban.conf or jail.conf. There's a jail.local, so all of that. So if I actually cd into etc and then failed ban, I'll do a quick ls to that. There is a jail.conf. If I actually do sudo touch jail.local, then I'm going to go ahead and sudo vim into jail.local. And I'm going to type exactly what Titus has here. Do default. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and just copy that stuff. Do all of that. Write and quit. So we should have that there. So there's a WordPress thing. To enable failed ban, we're going to go ahead and do sudo systemctl enable fail to ban, and then there we go. Now sudo systemctl start fail to ban. Start it. So that's done, dusted. So this is Titus's config, and I should be fine with that. So for UFW, I can actually try to find some UFW things. There should be a firewall thing. There's got to be some firewall settings. So, oops, that's Vim. I do not want that. Let's go ahead and do all of these. Well then, I guess I'll do each of these one by one. That's going to be a little slower, but that should be fine. That rule is updated. That rule is updated. I'm just going to do all of these. That should be done. Allow the outgoing. And sudo ufw enable. There we go. Firewall is active and enabled on system startup. So we should be fine there. Plus we got failed to ban, so I believe we should be fine on that front. I didn't do this correctly when I did the Debian tutorial, specifically Mint Debian edition, but we should now have Mint set up at least for some basic gaming shenanigans. But that should be it for this video here. Thank you, and good night.